Kia ora koutou, everybody. Welcome to the Strategic Direction Setting number 2. Really excited about this. I would really love to see everybody bringing their best game today. A few years ago, I was involved with a couple of people, Brendan McCullum and Stephen Fleming, and the three of us did a series of leadership workshops around the world. And I can always remember Flem, at the end of one day, he'd ring me up on the way home and go, Needles, you've got to bring the energy tomorrow. You've got to bring the energy. So I am looking forward to everybody bringing the energy and bringing their best selves to today. So we are looking about where we're going in the next 3 to 10 years. We want to get a clear steer. We want to make sure that our vision and our priorities are set in the right direction, and really looking forward to getting the good oil from the councillors and wider team. So I'll pass over to Amy, who'll say a few words.
Morena tātou. So thank you, Chair. So absolutely thinking about this second workshop for the strategic direction. I'll just have a few opening remarks, and then you will be in the safe hands of my team at the end of the table. So just want to set a little bit of the context before we start, and not just because of the recent announcements and the possible changes and the geopolitical context that we work in and the pressures that come from that. We are in a time of unprecedented change. So we are always and should be focused on delivering the best services most efficiently and effectively for the people of Canterbury. But today especially, thinking about what is the best use of our money and time for whatever time that we have. So with that, we do not propose to be looking to reorganise or restructure some of the way we organise ourselves. We are looking to how do we, within some of the structural organisation that we have, how do we do that better? Are we focused on the right thing? And are we doing it in the best way possible? So we will be looking internally to make sure that we are tidy and we have a warrant of fitness and our engine is running well. But I really invite you in this session to be looking at how do you want to use that machine? What are the things that are really important? So the task here today is to sharpen the strategic priorities, not redesign the whole framework or some of the structural things about us. Really look to what do you want to do? How do you want to spend this time? What's important to you? So with that, I'll hand you over to Emma and Cecilia. Kia ora.
Kia ora koutou. So, looking forward to the second workshop with you, following on from the workshop we had a couple of weeks ago. And we're going to keep the presentation very short and then get into the actual, the doing and bringing our energy through the group work and the conversation, because that's really where the gems come from and what we want to focus our time and energy on this morning. Cecilia and I have a very short presentation to go through, and that's really with the purpose of feeding back to you what we heard from 2 weeks ago, and we've just sort of themed that up. So reflecting back the conversation that we had with you, the council at our last workshop, and what emerged from that. I just want to briefly cover off the current strategic direction and the elements of that we actually want to leave unchanged, get your direction and sort of confirmation of that, and then we can actually focus the conversation, as Amy has said, around what are the priorities and what are the things we really need to deliver. And we'll do that in a breakout session. So we've got Cecilia and myself, Grace from my team, and Carmen. And with Carmen's expertise and knowledge of the annual plan process and the long-term plan, that really will be important to sort of bring this together in setting the strategic direction. And following the breakout session, then a report back. So that's the format of this morning's workshop. And I'm now going to hand over to Cecilia.
Thanks, Emma. So, this slide is really just to demonstrate the ever-evolving context we are working in with some of the headlines in the last couple of weeks since your strategic direction workshop 2 weeks ago. It just demonstrates the sort of pace and uncertainty we're working within. And after 2 p.m. this afternoon, this slide will look different again as we have all the budget headlines rolling out. So particularly in the last couple of weeks with the public service announcements and the government announcements around sort of digital transformation and AI, and thinking about what that means in the local context. So turning to the outputs from the workshop 2 weeks ago, you'll recall you had some activities where you considered through a core service lens what must be protected or retained through reform and transition, what needs to be sharpened, refocused, paused or reconsidered, what is one least regrets move for the next 3 years, regardless of the future model. And also within those discussions, you considered trade-offs and unresolved tensions. So I won't read these verbatim, but just, these have been used to inform the breakout session that you'll have shortly. But there were reoccurring themes really, protecting the kind of core regulatory functions was a theme throughout, and the continuity of services for the community, catchment management and data to support the decision making, and then areas of improvement. Also, there was discussion around sort of the PT future model. So building on those outputs, there were 4 clear themes that came through, being the catchment-based whole of system management, statutory obligations remain clear, funded and deliverable, science, data integrity and transparency, and public transport integration and future-proofing. On the side there, just some unresolved tensions that came out from some of the groups that may want to dive in further today as part of the breakout session. But these, again, have been used to inform the exercise and the strategic, the statements you'll be workshopping. And then underlying that, there were emerging principles coming through about how you want to work and reform. So it's not our intent to kind of go into discuss these now, but through the exercise we'll be discussing these. So I'll hand over to Emma now to work through the strategic direction framework.
Thank you. So Grace is just handing out copies of our current strategic framework. And just briefly, what I want to do is confirm the elements and the aspects of this that we actually intend to not change, that we see as enduring, and then, just get the agreement around that. We've sort of discussed this, but just get your feedback on that. So it's intended that we retained the current vision and purpose, the values, the organisational values that are in place, and then the current principles that have also been developed. So those are areas that, as part of developing your new strategic direction, we are not intending to make changes to that. And similarly, as Amy said, it's not the intention to make changes to the 3 core service operating model that's been in place now for around 2 years and underpins the current long-term plan and will be the sort of the basis of developing our next long-term plan. So those things really, based on what we've heard from you, sort of still resonate, are still relevant and fit for purpose. So we're not intending to sort of make revisions to that. So there's the purpose. As I said, the organisational values, these were adopted over 10 years ago now and really underpin the culture. So we think there'd be significant risk if we were sort of, disrupting and looking at changing those now. So there's no intention to change those. And then the guiding principles there, these were streamlined last time we did a refresh to the strategic direction, but essentially we're sort of proposing that these largely remain the same. So I just really wanted to open it up for any feedback and then just, collectively sort of check the understanding and that there's sort of consensus around that before we then move forward.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mackay.
I'm very conscious of us not wasting time or money, given what could be, a change of future in 3 to 5 years or whatever it might be. I do wonder, though, whether we could actually, if we're going to simplify stuff, whether we could actually simplify the vision and purpose. I do also wonder, if I look at the guiding principles, I think that we do need to ask ourselves, do we really use those? And maybe we could be a bit more honest in a way. And I just think, I look at the second one, for example. I mean, I think there's probably people could work on quite a few of these. But listen and work with communities, enabling participation and transparency. I mean, if we were truly honest with ourselves, I think that we've got a bit of work to do in that space. So I'm just wondering, look, I know that, we could spend a lot of time wordsmithing and doing things like that, but, yeah, whether we just roll them over or whether we really just do some simplified one.
Councillor Robinson.
No, thank you. I think actually it's still very much on point, what I'm seeing here. And the strategic priorities are also on point. I just think we just have to be realistic about where we're at today compared to what our priorities still are and what we need to do, and think of maybe adaptive ways in which to do it that aren't constrained by current reform. And that involves creativity, and I think we need to have the creativity discussion.
Thank you. Councillor Scott.
Yeah, I have a bit of a cynical view about this because I don't think that we are a can-do organisation from a governance point of view anyway, because some of the stuff that we'd like to do and some of the areas that we'd like to move on, I don't think we get those done. Empower communities taking action, I don't think that is appropriate. I mean, I don't know the number of times that we've been in here and talked about non-statutory measures that a regional council could stand in the middle of a problem and fix it through a non-statutory process. And we don't seem to want to do that. I don't know why that is. And then when you look at the guiding principles about enable innovation and create adaptive organisation and respond to change, we've heard that, but has it happened? So that would be my take on this. I think the dinosaurs in the room were here when this was put in place, post-commissioners. And it was very aspirational. And I think we've got an organisation now that's actually needs a bit of a harder focus on what's required.
Thank you. Councillor Sunkel.
I'm in agreement with Councillor Scott, not realising what he was going to say. I look at this page and through my ADHD or whatever, this is one of those pages where I cannot sort of get a clarity, and I would love us just to have 3 or 4 or 5 going, these are our core values, this is what we subscribe to. This is our vision. I just see a page of mumbo jumbo and stuff. And yes, we put it in place when we put it in place, but I don't think there was any great agreement at the time as to what it was and should be. It is a wordsmith document with lots of thought coming in from lots of people, and just I don't recognise it, if I'm honest and blunt.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell.
I'm going to agree with the previous two speakers. I also look at something like this and think, what the? Quite frankly, the values I can cope with. I get that. This is all just a lot of words, and how much of it do we actually do? I personally would rather have very clear and maybe controversial, who knows. I would rather have, rather than something that is niceified by consensus, I'd rather we really nut out what really matters to us deep down. And I'm not entirely sure that these words reflect what really matters to us.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Councillor Megan Mackay.
Thank you. So I think I would, when Nettles and I have looked at this, we also said this is too busy. This doesn't actually really help. And I think the staff have also said, look, we think the rainbow needs to probably go and we need to look at something a bit different. So when I look at this, I go, first of all, the values. And if we just quickly bring them up, they're pretty generic in that there are some pretty good values that we say, so long as they're being enacted. And so the question of are we living by the values is different than are our values right? And so for me, that's a tick. Those values are pretty good. But then we need, if we're not living by the values, we need to bring that in through regional delivery to say, well, why not? Like, why aren't we doing the things that we said we're going to do? So that's a slightly different question. Then when we go just to the vision statement, this is like an overarching statement, and I think that could possibly be reworked after we've done the strategic direction part of it, or the strategic priority. Then we can look at the guiding principles about how we achieve, and we could probably condense them, but ultimately we have to have some principles that sit below the vision the strategic priorities. On this rainbow here, what I found quite confusing is the red and the blue are the strategic directions, long-term aspirations, and then short-term aspirations, really. It doesn't matter what words you use. And I don't think personally both are necessary. We've only got a few years to really get it right, so that will probably come down to just a couple of clear direction statements. And then what's most important is in the context of all of that, so if we go, we might want to really tighten down the principles, we might tick off the values and say they're appropriate, and we might go, but the vision statement we might want to recreate or sharpen after the workshop. But what's really important is that over the next few years, we're not going to be reworking the core services. Like we're going to keep the three core services, and we might redirect how we deliver work within them, but we're not making big structural change here. So they're my comments and feedback.
Thank you, Megan. Councillor Moody.
Thank you. I guess I'm not sure why we'd want to choose to do work on reworking this. I agree, it's a bit messy, hard to read. I certainly can't take it in. But, there's so much going on with governance and RM reform and spatial planning. I might need a bit more context about why this would be a priority for our time at the moment. Yeah.
So, so we've been told that we have to continue to do the long-term plan. And so the very first part of the long-term plan is we set our strategic directions, because we can't make any decisions on the long-term plan before we've set what our strategic direction is. So this is the first step of the long-term plan that we've been told we must continue to deliver.
Chair Swiggs. Oh,
I was just agreeing. I mean, there is advocacy at the moment to try and get some clarity on that. But at this point in time, every single statutory obligation under all councils in New Zealand remains. So we will continue to do the work as we are legally obliged to.
Councillor Mackay.
I was just going to add that this sits obviously upstairs on particularly level 1, and I think it probably sits in some directors' offices as well. So it does direct, post the long-term plan, what staff do for the next, on a year-by-year basis.
In that case, I think it's pretty good, the content for me. Pretty happy with the values, etc. Maybe that's part of why I'm going, but, why would we want to put energy into it? However, I understand that it's connected to the long-term plan, which I hadn't, I just thought, that's a organisation's mission statement sort of thing. So thanks for making that connection for me.
Councillor Davis.
I'd like to propose that Nettles and Megan go through this and really edit it. And I trust you to do that. I'd like to see, much simpler half of it. But not change it too much, just cut.
Councillor Sunkel.
I would like to see a simplification of it. And having been part of a conversation for a long time, is it good that one wants to be involved in the reorganisation, or should you let new brushes try and do it? But for me, very simply, our vision and purpose, taking action together to shape a thriving and resilient Canterbury, speaks both to the environmental and the economic. Very simple statement. And then our long-term aspirations are the things that give effect to that, and then some simple guiding principles. But we can reorganise it in a simple sense.
Megan.
So in terms of the work that we as the co-chairs are doing, it's the staff that will do the work, and we will bring back options for you all to consider. But I just wanted to make it clear, these guys that are going to do the hard work.
Okay, so, Councillor Gerard, before we move on.
Struggling when I look at it in detail, it's sort of like, oh my goodness, if we take out one and not the other, I think it's just going to lead to a whole lot of debate, and I'm just wondering if it's actually... Yeah, and so I just think, I agree with staff. I think we should move on.
Thank you, Councillor Gerard. To my mind, in its current visual, it's needs a bit of work. So whilst we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, this, I don't think in its current form is quite fit for purpose. The values are quite sound. It needs a bit of zhuzhing up. So that's, I think, where we may head with this. Right. So we left you with a little bit of a thought piece to work on around what you see as the big rock, the main thing for us to focus on. And so what we would like to do now is give each councillor 2 minutes to talk to the thought piece. There is to be no debate around this, and we will respectfully hear each councillor and their thoughts, and we'll keep it to a strict 2 minutes, and we may start over here with Councillor Moody. Thank you. Where you go.
Over the next LTP period, ECAN should focus on our core regulatory function, building the capacity to process water data, because managing water well is critical for both Canterbury's economy and environment, regardless of governance structure. This means investing in our water data processing systems, having them in a good working state. If we need to hand them over to TAs, should come first, and investing resource in non-statutory, non-core work may need to wait, reduce, or be increasingly done in partnership with others.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sunkel.
Thank you. It seems that we all might say the same things, and I didn't read our briefing documents. So my simple statement is that we define our core services and regulatory obligations alongside positioning them for transfer to whatever the new entities may be, because the best defence of our services are delivering them well to our communities. And we need to be cognizant of what those communities and those territorial authorities have want, expect, or the conversations that they wish to enter into. So if we have that very clarity around our services and regulatory requirements, and be very clear in those conversations with those TAs and others that will be picking up the cudgels and the governance, whatever those forms might be, we need to be very cognizant of their expectations, the conversations they want to have, and not just position our conversations as to our wants, because that could turn the conversation off very, very quickly.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ward.
Well, the last two speakers have basically... I think over the next few years we should once again focus on our core functions, but the must-haves, not the nice-to-haves. But I guess I want to expand that out a bit too, that around freshwater management going forward, and having an understanding, and the other Nick alluded to this, we have a lot of data in this building that cannot be used, has not been used. So we know that we're trying to improve our quality of our water, but we don't actually know how much quantity we're using, how much quantity is still available, not available. So, and we need a healthy and well-functioning environment going forward, which is sustainable both economically and environmentally. And I think we need to keep our focus simple. So that's it.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Councillor Mackay.
We did only get the briefing paper this morning, so I can assure you I did this last night. Over the next long-term period, CRC should focus on fiscal restraint, prepare for uncertainty from reform, that is, be agile and adaptable, and continue to lead with our core environmental management / functions. Flood protection and resilience, freshwater quality and quantity, B&B, biodiversity and biosecurity, particularly the statutory functions, air quality, hazard and catchment management. PT should be put into a separate business entity, at least set up so that it could get underway with a shared service model as soon as possible. Because transition will occur, we need to minimise those costs while protecting capability, so that's the personnel and knowledge within the building. And we're absolutely essential to invest. We must be prepared to pivot and adapt. This means modernising our consents and compliance, continuing resilience infrastructure investment, smart investment in data, already been touched on, so it must be able to integrate or be widely used in other situations, continued monitoring, amplified environmental outcomes via an uplift in catchment funding or work, so that's our water and land team and the non-regulatory work, and also reprioritisation of our current funding envelope at the max. Any areas of duplications with TAs, such as biodiversity or within this building, political agendas without good scientific evidence, unnecessary changes such as the structural stuff you've referred to, additional or new costs for ratepayers, will need to wait or be done differently. I would love to rebrand, need some new chairs in here apparently, I'm not sure, strategy documents, some of our consultations, we need to really justify. We need to stop borrowing for natural capital for planning, because would any of this make sense in 3 to 5 years?
Thank you, Councillor Mackay, and you get a gold star for preparation. Love it. Thank you very much. Councillor Scott.
Not as eloquent as Claire. I'd focus on cost of services because of the effect on rates and the looming rates cap that has been put in front of us. So that's my first statement there. This means that statutory functions should come first, and other services may need to wait. I think we need to focus on function, and that's the statutory function. I think we need to focus on cost, as I've already said. I think one of the things that we haven't done, but we can do, is focus on collaboration with other agencies and also our community. We focus on the simplification of this, if you want to call it for an ugly term, business unit, which is Environment Canterbury, services that exist within this building, and we should definitely get rid of public transport out of this building into an organisation that can stand on its own 2 feet and has the opportunity to actually progress public transport in Christchurch at a different rate of knots. And we should focus on influence. I don't think we use ourselves enough as influence. If you've had the opportunity to represent Canterbury on the national stage, it is both not liked in some cases because of our size and because of our influence, but there's a lot of stuff that nationally has started in this province, and I think that we just need to not have the arrogance around that, but take a leadership position. That's enough.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Davies.
So over the next LTP period, ECAN should focus on building a frequent and reliable metro bus network across Greater Christchurch, because mode shift is the single highest leverage intervention for transport emissions, congestion, equity and resilience. This means investment in service frequency, our core route corridors, coverage expansion to growth areas such as Selwyn, and lower ridership services at current delivery models may need to wait, reduce or be done differently.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Councillor Davis.
Over the next LTP period, ECAN should focus on bolstering the Rivers team and their alignment with hazards, biosecurity, and community priorities. And I say this because they already are a very effective team, and the TAs are going to need them. And because a catchment approach is best for our futures, which I think we all agree on. This means strategic spatial planning should come first, and I emphasize strategic spatial planning. And traditional planning may need to wait, reduce, or be done differently. And I praise this on innovative thinking is needed for this complex future. The planning that we do is not fit for the future. So we need an adaptive plan that is a map that that AI can take a new policy, a national policy statement or something, and it goes through and it goes into the map. The plan is changed. It's not like we set this plan and then we have 8 plan changes, $1 million each. So, and there is a piece in LinkedIn of a planner saying this exact thing, like, here we are going through all this change. We need the central government to actually be part of this because they need to hold the data that feeds these plans. So it's a much bigger piece than what any of us have now, and it probably will be years to come. But anyway, that's my...
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Chair Swiggs.
Kia ora. This was quite difficult because I started in the disciplined delivery of core services as a starting point, and then I was like, it's quite broad, and then I tried to think, how can I be more focused? And then I thought, what is it, the biggest thing that has the biggest impact on both the RM simplification, whatever's coming forward, and to me it became about water resilience, because that is a big statutory role, and that's where we have most of our where we can have the most impact, I believe, anyway. So I've written down, over the next LTP period, ECAN should focus on Canterbury's water resilience, because water is our biggest environmental, economic, cultural and climate risk. This means freshwater outcomes, flood protection, water availability, science, monitoring and compliance should come first. Lower impact discretionary work and activity better led by others may need to wait, reduce or be delivered differently. And then I was just basically said that my steer is that we should organise the next LTP around water resilience. For Canterbury, water is the common thread, regardless of where you live or where your boundaries are. Too much water through floods, too little water through drought, and allocation pressure and poor water quality affecting communities, farming, biodiversity, mahingakai and public trust is also where ECAN's regional role is clearest. We need to protect that core capability and let us make good decisions, lead in this space, science, catchment planning, flood and river management, consenting, monitoring, compliance and practical work with mana whenua councils and their transition landowners and communities. The trade-off is that we cannot keep adding priorities. Work that is discretionary, low impact, duplicated or better funded or led by others should be paused, narrowed, partnered or just stopped. So put water resilience first, fund that core service well, and show the disciplined leadership about everything else.
Thank you, Chair Swiggs. Very comprehensive. Down the end of the table, Councillor Mackenzie.
There's no great revelations from this corner because, well, for a number of reasons, but in particular, Claire and Dion have actually expanded. But look, it's over the next thing, Environment Canterbury should focus on efficiency of process and delivery, accountability, and fiscal restraint. Not only because our communities are demanding that, but it's the best way to prepare this council, council functions for the transition to new regime. And this means that we should have a focus on our essential core services, and that's where Claire and Dion have probably more clearly identified what are the essential core services. And I want to make the significant difference between our current core services and what I see as our essential core services. That should come first, and discretionary projects, and we've got a lot of those, and spending may need to wait, reduce or be done differently.
Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. Councillor Faulkner.
Mine's fairly straightforward. Focus on resilient water management and land use systems that protect communities, enable economic growth, productivity and adaptable to reform, because water is Canterbury's defining issue. Catchment scale planning and hazard management is already at play, driven by climate and extreme weather. This means Canterbury's economic backbone needs protection, poor environmental outcomes, long-term risk. And first order priority, stabilising functions, strengthen core systems, standardise processes, all built to transfer into any future governance model.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gerard.
So, yeah, this is more a looking at a 10-year perspective, not having to think too much about the reform process. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. So over the next LTP period, ECAN should focus on incentivising and managing land use to provide for the functioning of natural, physical, that's the water, air, soils, and ecological processes. So those two together, you can't separate them. In our catchments, from the mountains to the sea, because a healthy, well-functioning environment sustains our society and our economies. And that's for today and for future generations. And this would need strategic spatial catchment planning, setting environmental parameters, undertaking catchment management, and the applied use of science, collaboration with other agencies, and adaptive and meaningful work programs and the development of funding mechanisms, not just rates, but looking at what this had in it. And also with an outcome approach, that should come first. So thinking about the outcomes, the environmental outcomes. And the traditional planning may need to wait because we haven't seen it work very well. It's caused a lot of, there's just millions of dollars been sunk, and I don't think our traditional planning is adaptive enough because new issues will come up, like the data centres or whatever technology will come next, and it doesn't deal fast enough with the issues that are facing us, and it's only going to change faster. So we need to look and be more adaptive. So, and for transport, it's multimodal, sustainable, efficient, well-connected, regional, and that's regional public transport focus. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gerard. Councillor Campbell.
I am unapologetically bringing my political urban greenie focus to this, so stand by. Over the next LTP period, ECAN should focus on solving our water issues. Nitrates, E. coli, toxic algae, over-allocation, urban water quality. Because this is what matters most to all our communities, to our environment and to our future. This means humbleness, open minds, and a genuine respect for independent, peer-reviewed science should come first. And our egos, reluctance to make bold moves, and prioritising of engagement with industry and vested interests over opposing views may need to reduce or be done differently.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Robinson.
I'm very similar to Councillor Campbell, but throw in a few extras. Environment Canterbury should focus on restoring environmental resilience, public trust, and long-term resource equity, because Canterbury is already facing cumulative pressure. And this means investment in core environmental functions. Freshwater quality is one of them. Allocation reform is another. Compliance and enforcement is part of it, and biodiversity protection should be all of it. Coastal planning should not be forgotten. Science and monitoring, projects that we're good at. Transparent public accountability should come first, and lower priority expansion projects, speculative development pathways, or activities that further entrench environmental risk should be done very differently. Somewhere along the way, we've lost the public's trust in our processes, and parts of me have lost trust as well. Reform is not the reason of that loss or confidence. It is simply an accelerant. The real issues I see is that communities increasingly feel decisions are being happening to them rather than for them or with them. We need to show we can be consistent and adaptive, creative, and fulfil our promises and keep them. We made promises to the people of Canterbury to protect fresh water, biodiversity, and strengthen climate resilience, uphold public accountability, and steward this region for future generations, whichever shape or form that comes. And those expectations have not simply disappeared because planning pathways have narrowed or national reforms have paused parts of them. So if the current constraints make parts of this work harder, then we need to find another path forward, not retreat from this responsibility. That may mean using other statutory tools, improving governance oversight, investing more heavily in science and compliance, and strengthening our partnerships with mana whenua, or being more transparent about trade-offs and these risks. But standing still, we cannot become part of our strategy. We need to replicate what we do very well. Sorry, I'll just about finish. Rather than wait for the lolly scramble of funding that we get and avoid the efficient and effective narrative, but replace it with fear, focused and fierce. Because Environment Canterbury can do better. not simply wait for Wellington to decide what leadership looks like. And please do not forget the coast.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. I'll move to Councillor Claire Mackay.
Megan.
Oh, Megan.
So I'm going to reset.
Megan Mackay.
But I do endorse Claire, what Claire said. So lots to choose from, but from my perspective, ECAN should focus on regulatory and planning excellence because that is where we have the strongest mandate and where it will make the biggest long-term impact. It means good data, clear objectives, workable policy, strong implementation. That should come first, and lower priority discretionary work may need to wait, reduce, or be done differently. That might sound like a planner's dream and everybody else's afternoon nap, but from my perspective, this is where the biggest impact really does sit. Because local government reform and RMA reform really do walk hand in hand. And as the ground is shifting beneath us, it's exactly the time to be really clear about what we should be excellent at. Choose a point of excellence. For me, that means a really good regional framework, not only the RPS or what the regional plan might be, state of environment data science, Mataranga Māori consent and compliance monitoring, and really good implementation. Focus on that as our point of excellence. And I want to emphasise that mana whenua lens is not an add-on or a paragraph at the back or something to sprinkle over the top. In my view, it's a very good part of how we set that direction and understand our place, understand the risks to our environment, values, and freshwater coast biodiversity, and intergenerational responsibility. So to me, good planning is where science, data, law, community values, and mana whenua knowledge come together and meet, and then we have the role of turning it into clear choices. So my view is let's not be everything, everywhere, all at once, and let's do something, choose a point of excellence and do it brilliantly.
Yeah.
Thank you, Megan. Councillor Megan Mackay. I won't need a timer because I'm not going to do a sermon from the pulpit. But I thought about this a lot, and as you all know, I've just come back from a business trip to India, and for me, it's about all things water. Freshwater management, water resilience, utilising technology. We need to focus on all things water because I've seen economies with very little water, and without it we are beggared. We need to focus on water protection, regulation, care, including our rivers, our lakes, our coastal, as a priority. Everything that everyone has said, I agree with, but we need to start somewhere. We need to ensure resilience, health and safety, and economic well-being. Thank you. That was a really interesting round to hear people's perspectives, and we are about to go into a really enjoyable group activity, which I'm personally quite excited about. And we will be led by our wonderful team, Emma and Celia. But just before we start, we will be moving into groups, and we thought we'd just have a little game just at the start. And absolutely before this starts, I apologise to Councillor Davies. I promise not to be performative or end up on the front page of the press, but we're going to have just a little introduction just to keep the energy up. Okay. So we have 4 teams, and each team has a theme song. So the game is name the song. You get an extra prize if you can name the artist.
Oh my God. Right, I'm ready. Oh, sorry.
Listen, baby, ain't no mountain high.
I reckon it's the Everleigh Brothers, Ain't No Mountain High Enough. It's not Diana
You
Ross
have
singing it.
the name of the song. Who's the artist?
Is it Martin Gaye? Who? Martin Gaye. Marvin.
Marvin Gaye. I think that close enough. Well done.
Thank you.
Ain't no mountain high enough is one of our teams. Here's
Small Town Girl.
no.
No? It's Small Town Girl.
On and on and on. Oh, strange. Oh my god.
No.
No.
Can we have yes at the back. Jenny is the artist.
It's such a good song.
What's the name of the song?
What's the name of the song?
Yes.
Don't Stop Believing.
Don't Stop Believing.
You googled it. Oh, Mr. AI did.
Okay, that's the name of our second team. Don't Stop Believing. Okay, here's the next one. This is easy. Yes.
Ah, the mirror has gone.
Excellent. Bye.
Bee Gees.
No Googling.
Not the Bee Gees.
It's a guy. Yes, well done.
Prince? No. Yeah. Seal.
Game's a good game.
Seal.
No. Oh, my word. Brains trust. Come on.
No, we don't know.
Okay, we're done. It was Jimmy Cliff.
Oh.
Okay. Last one.
The final countdown.
Yes.
Final countdown.
Bye. Final countdown. Bye.
Meatloaf. No.
No.
Oh, chocolate. Final countdown by...
Come on, this is easy.
It's not Led Zeppelin, is it?
No.
It's so apt for Ecan, isn't it?
Survivor.
The final countdown. But
Survivor.
Anyway. Okay, nobody?
Is it fun?
Yes, it is Europe. Oh. So our teams, Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Don't Stop Believing, I Can See Clearly Now, in the final countdown. And I will hand over to the wonderful team at the back who will take it from here.
Very good, thank you. So that is the introduction to your teams and team names, and we've got up there on the board the groupings. So there are 4 groups. I won't go through them all. You can go and see which groups you are in there. So we've got, dividing into 4 groups. We'll have 2 in the Councillors' Lounge and 2 here in the chamber, 1 each with a facilitator. And the exercise is a card sort exercise. So we've taken the... We've made cards up of the based on the first workshop and the ideas and the thinking from the first workshop. And what we'd then like you to do is reflect on that, have a look at those statements, and then think about whether you regard those as a strategic priority, a guiding principle, a core service action or something that is sort of an unresolved tension. And so that might be where you need some further information, or there's it's an issue that there's quite different views on. So in terms of the strategic priority, just to distinguish between that and the core service action, so where we're talking about a strategic priority, really they're thinking about sort of at a strategic level, what is the resourcing, the priority, the funding, the sequencing of activities, as opposed to the core service actions, which are probably more at a service level, the operational sort of particular work programs. So a bit of a distinction there between what would sort of sit at a work program level and is more sort of operationally action orientated, as opposed to what is more of a strategic issue. So tease that out in your conversation. It's designed to really tease out the information and the conversation that we had 2 weeks ago, and I think it'll build nicely on what we've just heard around the rooms in terms of priorities. And then also it will talk to and explore a little bit where we're talking about the guiding principles. We can reflect that back when we're having a look at the strategic direction this morning, and how do we actually simplify and streamline that. So we've got half an hour. You'll stay in your groups and work through that exercise, and then we'll come back into the chamber and have a further discussion.
Thank you.
Is that straightforward and clear, what we're doing? Find out which group you're in, and then we can provide any clarifications.
Thank you, Emma. I'd just like to add that can each group nominate one person to report back at the end? Nothing major, just on the group vibe and the general tone of the conversation. Thank you.
I can't do box.
Okay, team, let's reassemble. Mr. Moody, please take your seat.
I've got
Ms. Amy.
the heading dogs and Hunterways out.
Ms. I like that.
Thank you very much. It's been a really interesting 30 minutes or so, just teasing out some thoughts and some themes. So I will now take the opportunity to get the groups to report back, and we've got enough time. Though we'll have one person reporting back, but if any other of the team members want to chip in, do feel welcome. We'll start with the final countdown, and who's reporting back for the final countdown?
Me. So just to clarify, do you want us to go through the cards and how we whatever, or I think I will sort of do that. So we found the exercise is actually quite simple, and it didn't take us huge amounts of time, and kind of agreed pretty much on where we ended up with our cards. If we go to the unresolved, value for money and efficiency, and there are a couple of questions in that. Is there enough money to do the things that some folk want versus others that go, we want to spend less money, or we absolutely just talk about core services, values, whatever. So we consider that unresolved tension. Local support and collaboration are maintained to leverage funding and capability. Again, an unresolved tension. How much money do we put into catchment groups or Banks Peninsula trusts or whoever or whatever, and what is the return, and who sees what as a priority? So again, in a sense, an unresolved tension of how we engage with the community. And adaptation choices, retreat natural systems for infrastructure, bit of a climate change conversation, and again, where does that sit? What does the future look like? And unresolved tension, again, sitting in that space. So those were the three that we ended up in unresolved tensions. Strategic priorities, science, data, integrity and transparency is intact, trusted and accessible. We debated whether it was a strategic priority or a principle, but kind of decided we are not there yet, so it's a priority to actually get the uplift, and then it may become a principle, but until we've got it, what is it? Protect specialist capability and institutional knowledge, and the change that's coming is a priority for us. Focus and strengthen around core statutory functions. I think the majority of people talked to that going around the room before. Statutory obligations must remain clear, funded and deliverable. Again, we spoke to that as a priority. Effective catchment-based management and stewardship, kia ora katai. Again, we've all spoken to that, so that sits in a priority. Guiding principles, the treaty, constant, regional functions cohesively, and ecological systems, not administrative boundaries. So we're talking about a Canterbury-wide, which then speaks to some of those conversations around what does shared service look like in the transition. So looking at the region, not just individual catchments, and getting focused on bits and pieces. The maintain independence of environmental regulation and stewardship is a principle. So again, if we're going to look at the environment, we look at it in an independent view and go, it is important, therefore we are independent in our thought. Public transport must be equitable, reliable, integrated and future ready. That's a principle. It's not an action, but it's guiding what we're doing. And protect the continuity for services of safety, wellbeing and community trusts is another statement of things that we should achieve, but they're not really actions, but give effect to, so they're principles. And build trust, understanding and connections through reform. So again, a principle of building that trust and understanding. And the last piece, the core service actions, science and data systems are cohesive and future ready. So that's part of those core services of the transition, but absolutely understanding our data and science. Our public transport reform must be deliberate and evidence-based. That's an action that falls out. So whether we go to a CCO, whatever it is, we have the evidence and we're very deliberate in what we do. what the future looks like. Clarify the pace and priority focus of PT futures, tied up with the previous one. And PT governance and funding structures reduce complexity and are financially sustainable. There's again another action that sort of falls out of the core service. So that's where it was. Again, we found it relatively simple. Things that could have been principles, maybe priorities, but otherwise we got there without too much debate.
Thank you, Councillor Sunkel. Were there any sticky points where people started almost pulling each other's ponytails or major unresolved tensions between the group?
Not within, I think, the cards that we had, but if we'd allowed the conversation to widen to other matters, we could have gone off on tangents, I think, and we could have talked about Purple Willow, and we could have talked about catchments, and we could have talked about a bunch of things and engagement. But if we stuck within what we had in front of us, it was a reasonably, lost the words, conversation, agreeable and without too much tension.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Great. Let's move on to this. Oh, sorry, Sarah.
I'd just like to thank staff for their help, with the explaining things as we go along. It was very helpful.
Thank you, Councillor Gerard. Councillor Campbell.
And I'd just like to add one to one of those pieces, which was the unresolved tension, the value for money and efficiency. One of the reasons for that is different people measure value for money differently. And what I consider value for money, Nick Ward may consider an extreme extravagance that we need to get. So that is that in terms of the people around this table, value for money is a contested space.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Let's move on to this. The second group, I can see clearly now. This is a really great group, good conversation. Councillor Mackay is going to report back.
Thank you, Chair. And I will say before we start that we really didn't have any arguments either. We did.
I'm just looking.
Okay, we did.
No, because it's strong. Be strong, clear, and say what you think.
Right. We did find it an interesting exercise to do. Can we be quiet, please? An interesting exercise to do, because there was some cards where we discussed what was actually written there and how the words were actually used, and there was the possibility of several of them which could be interpreted in different ways. However, we made our decisions and put them in the boxes, and we could come to pay for it. But we will double check with staff next time when we see these come. So I'm going to start on the unresolved tensions, and some of them have already been mentioned by John's group. And basically, we had the region, the one which said the region functions cohesively as ecological systems, not administrative boundaries. That's a possibility if you look at it from the process of reform. Question mark, do then we have some decision making? Or are we looking at it from a catchment perspective, which we might have a role in some work, and then where does it sit? So the confusion around that is very much in the unresolved tension space. Public transport reform must be deliberate and evidence-based. That's in the unresolved tension. We know we've got different views around the table here and haven't had the opportunity to come to a common understanding and agreement on that. And also there will be other parties that will be involved in that as well. Local support and collaboration are maintained, and leverage funding and capability. We've got that on the cross line between core service action and unresolved tension, and that is because of and it ties in a little bit. Value for money and efficiency is about making sure that any dollars come in, we're using it, and we know that we've got examples that There is a cost to providing contestable fundings or some of the grant money and stuff like that, and are we the best persons to be dealing with that? Could some of that local support and collaboration be shifted into our catchment management and non-regulatory, non-statutory stuff that most of us around the table in the last year or so have been very keen to see more of occurring. So that's on the line between core service action and unresolved. We've also got PT governance and funding structures and reducing complexity. Structures reduce complexity and are functionally stable. That's on the line between core service action, because it's a core service of ours, but a bit of an unresolved tension there. Protect specialist capability, institutional knowledge. That's the capability and capacity, I guess, within this building. But we weren't quite sure around the breadth of the question that's put on the card. Particularly, we've assumed it's around reform and getting ourselves future ready to hand on some services sometime in the future. And that has basically covered all. It's right in the centre, so it covers the 4 boxes. The other one that we couldn't really put into a single box of either strategic priority or guiding principles was the science, data integrity and transparency is intact and trusted and accessible. We've got that strategic priority and guiding principle. I guess one that we did have a bit of a conversation around was the territory treaty partnership is constant. We have got that on the dividing line between a guiding principle and an unresolved tension. And part of that is we know the organisation's in strategic priority. We know we use it as a guiding principle on everything that we do, but we've probably still got a little bit of an unresolved tension in 2 spaces. One, our community is not at the same space as us, and similarly, is it the treaty partnership that's more important, or is it in fact the Settlement Act? And so that's raised, and we know there are different views through the Renanga. Particularly, we've got one here which doesn't see us as a Crown partner. So, we know there's different views around there. So we've got that just across the line between a guiding principle and unresolved tension. I think most of the others are pretty similar to the first speaker. We have value for money and efficiency in a guiding principle.
Thank you, Councillor Mackay. Are there any other members of that great group that I can see clearly now that want to add a bit of spice to it? We all good?
Right.
Okay. Oh, good. How good. Lovely. Let's move on to the next group. Ain't No Mountain High Enough. Who's reporting? Thank you, Councillor Davis.
We started off a little bit muddled, but we
you can't say that.
What? No, I wanted to see. I'm visual. Anyway, sorry, Claire. The first thing we did was we actually had to write what under strategic priority, why under guiding principle, and how under core service. So we did that, and then Megan did point out that we did this 2 weeks ago before the Head Start thing came out. So that's kind of sitting on our shoulders, and it's sort of warped it a little. But anyway, the 3 strategic priorities focus and strengthen those core statutory functions, obviously, and our statutory obligations must remain clear and funded and deliverable, and effective catchment-based management and stewardship, ki uta ki tai. Then we had this adaptation choices and retreat natural systems, which we had to sit on the line between the what, the strategic priority, and the how. We also had we had a lot of things on the lines, to be honest. Yeah, and I don't know if that's because of the announcement, the Head Start announcement, we just didn't quite know where to put it. But anyway, the build trust and understanding connections through reform, that was a tricky one for us. And we actually wrote how, it's sitting in why, and it's also sitting in what. So probably it's across everything. The guiding principles are easy in a way because it's to Tariti, maintain independence of environmental regulation stewardship, and protect the continuity of services for well-being of the community. I mean, I just say protect the community. The other big one that went 3 ways was science, data, integrity, transparency is intact and trusted. So that's the what, the why, the how, it's in everything. Value for money sat on the line between unresolved and how, the core services, clarifying the pace and priority of the PT, again, unresolved and how in the core services. PT definitely had its own vibe. We kind of kept putting it away, and it is tricky, but we do have it in one thing, strategic priority, and that is it must be equitable and reliable and integrated. So that sits there, which is good.
That's on the line too.
It's sort of on the line, but it's definitely in the strategic priority. Anyway, yeah, we also struggled with the regional functions the region functions cohesively as ecological systems and not administrative boundaries. So we put that on the line in unresolved guiding principle. We also wrote what did Cecilia write? Reform or catchment management. So I mean, I think we're all very similar, but just a little bit different. But Megan, do you have anything on?
I think the only thing that I would add is our group name, No Mountain High Enough. We clearly needed a lot of oxygen masks to try and get any type of agreement. Most of the things we kind of put amongst all of the groups, but we thoroughly discussed everything.
Councillor Ward.
Though, in defending our group, we did have 4 or 5 things that went straight to Pacific corners. So that when staff look at our sheet, anything that's really in a corner, we felt quite strongly about together.
Great clarification. Councillor Robinson.
I was just going to say that it was. I think we needed to almost tease out what the headlines meant. You know, we had to do what, where, how, and that type of thing to actually determine where they sat. Also, you're right. I think some of the announcements in the last sort of like couple of weeks has put it just a slightly different flavour on our mindset. And rather than actually sitting to our core values as people, it's been influenced slightly by external means, and I think we need to revisit it again. And we were mentioning that based on what we talked about at the table when we started, and that would be a really interesting exercise. So I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. All right, moving on to our last, but definitely not least group, Don't Stop Believing. Who's reporting back?
I am. And sitting here being last, it is quite reassuring to know that looking at our sheet that we've got it right and you guys have actually put things in the wrong place. And he wasn't on our committee, but I was. I've been sitting next to him long enough to be able to channel him. One of the biggest things that we had, and I'll go to the unresolved tensions, and we put in quite a few. And public transport, that was the key for us. That's a unresolved tension. Trust and understanding, that's another one that's not there. Value for money and efficiency. PT governance and funding structures, local support and collaboration. And I found that from a personal perspective, that's really interesting because those unresolved tensions, they're all the ones that I became a councillor for. So, and we're still in that space. So that's pretty telling. From a strategic priority, the region functions cohesively and ecologically, not around the administrative boundaries. Public reform must be deliberate and evidence-based, and I think that's a priority, even though we had quite a conversation over the public transport, and we had quite a conversation over value for money, and both of them are linked tightly together. So we do really feel that public transport must be deliberate. Statutory obligations, clear and funded and deliverable. Strategic priority, maintain independence from environmental regulation and stewardship. That's a priority, and catchment-based management as well. And interestingly, our core service action is slightly different to a number of the other groups. We put science and data, protect continuity of services for safety and well-being. Science, data and integrity is intact, trusted and accessible. And I think they're sort of a non-negotiable moving forward. And I think the group is there. Our guiding principles clarify the pace and priority of public transport futures. Treaty partnership is a constant. And unlike any of the other groups, we didn't put anything on a line.
We didn't put anything on the line.
You didn't either? Oh, I withdraw that comment.
Thank you very much. Anyone else from that group want to add anything? Mr. Moody.
Thanks, John. Very well reported. I agree, and I would just add that a lot of our most spirited debate was around whether one perceives rates as being a cost that needs to go down and are perhaps too high, or whether one perceives rates as being a public good that we want to have more of where we can and do even more good. Real difference of perspectives there. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think a very worthwhile exercise. I'd like to throw now to the wonderful team of Emma and Cecilia to wrap up.
Great, thank you. I'm just sort of really trying to digest all of that, and the brain's kind of starting to think it all through. So, it sounds like it was useful, and so that's really good. And we've got a lot of information from not just this exercise, the workshop, your statements this morning, which we had the advantage of being live streamed, so we can get those verbatim and transcripted. So we will take all of that. And we're already just sort of starting to, we're trying not to sort of swap notes here across the table, but we'll think about how we pull that together into something cohesive. And then I think for us, it will be useful to sort of form something up that then we can bring back to the next session to really test with you what that looks like. We had these sessions which have been kind of designed to be conversational and sort of discovering and sort of getting the views and perspectives. So we will now take that away, form that up, and then we can come back and test something further with you. So I think that's it. It's certainly come across to me that there needs to be quite a lot more. Would need at least one other session, and also picked up on some of the unresolved tensions. So we'll give some thought to how we explore those.
Needles, can I just say something here? Because I think one of the fundamental things that we need some way of releasing some tension on is that value for money and efficiency, because it sat very clearly that we have a continuum of thought there. And I see you nodding, Ashley, and I think what it might pay to do as an idea is have a debate on that, actually. Have like 2 teams of 3 to have a debate on that, because in my discussion, which you're on my side, but you couldn't vote. But I think both John and Nick had a different idea in terms of that. From a governance perspective, I was looking at it from if you've got if you like, say, the business unit, what should it cope? And it's like having the audit trail that you're efficiently using the money that you're collecting. But others have a different idea in terms of pulling that money into this. So I think that there's an opportunity there.
I think that's a great idea. Thank you very much. I'll just pass firstly to Amy and then Megan for some final words.
Thank you, Chair. I just like to first off thank my team and the great work that they've done with the chairs to get that underway, and also my colleagues who are sitting in the back soaking that all up like wee sponges, because it really helps the conversation for ELT as well. And also congratulate you. That was actually that was a really great session, and we got to hear actually what you thought or what you were on the line about. That is, in terms of getting this work over the line, is muchly appreciated. One thing that I would say, I really encourage you to have the debate on the things that you're not sure of. A good, clear strategy is critical for us as an organisation to be able to lead our people, but more importantly, for you all and us supporting you to lead out across the region. So clear, simple, and elegant. Have the debate rather than add more words in. We want to drive a scooter through, not a bus. No disrespect to public transport.
Wise words. Thank you very much, Amy and Megan.
Yeah, well, kia ora. Just, I guess, one housekeeping matter and then one comment. So when we've put a lot of thought into how we take these sessions and build on the last. So from last session, the comment cards that we got as part of our card sorting exercise today, they were your comments that came from the last workshop. That's what staff heard from you. And so as we've tried to build this through into a final strategic direction product, we've put a lot of thought into how we do that and how we make it interactive and engaging and meaningful for all of you. That's why we set only one piece of homework for you, which was to do those really clear statements, and that was to give you all an opportunity to really say what was most important to you. So thank you for doing that homework. We might have to get some more direction. I have an aversion, and a really deep aversion, that when you're doing strategic work that you get slides in advance. I think that actually limits your thinking. So, but open to some feedback from you all about how we might improve that going forward, and how we stick within the tikanga of Environment Canterbury. So I just wanted to take the opportunity and say that was deliberate, and apologies if it actually inconvenienced anybody. Also to acknowledge this is the end of a really big week, and in the annual plan, yes, you're thinking strategically, but it's in that micro kind of thinking, and to bring everybody back up into macro today has been fantastic. After a really quite a heavy work week for us all, it has been really good to see everybody remain in really good spirits and working together really constructively and collaboratively. So it's great to end the week this way. So thank you all.
And on that note, here ends the session. So thank you very much for bringing your energy. I know it's a tough ask at the end of a very taxing week for us all, but it was just wonderful to see everyone working so collaboratively well together. So thank you very much, and cheers, folks.
Yeah, kia ora. I'll finish with a karakia. I just wanted to also recognise, yes, it has been a full week, and annual plans are often very challenging for people to go through, and I want to recognise that some people feel like that they don't get what they want, but we will continue to work through what those issues are so that we can, find pathways through. But I do want to thank every councillor for the way that they've worked through the annual plan, our council meeting yesterday and today. Thank you very much for chairing that session. Kia tātou katoa. Te atawhai o te tātou araki ahea karakiti. Me te aroha o te atua. Me te whiwhi ngā tahitanga. Ki te wairua tapu, ake, āmene.